现在的香港真的是太惨了。
Hong Kong is really in a bad state now. We could see store after store closing down. I've never seen anything like this in over 30 years. All the buildings and storefronts behind me are shut down. I remember when I first came here in 2018, this place was full of people. Now look around. The streets are lined with stores for rent. The variety of ingredients we used to see is now almost gone, and even something to eat costs $75. The prices in Hong Kong are outrageous.
Hong Kong used to be one of the most free and open, developed cities in the world, consistently ranking high in global competitiveness. But now, if you walk the streets of Hong Kong, the sights will shock you. There's a store that says, "We only accept cash, no WeChat, no Alipay, no bank cards, no change for small amounts." Another store has a saying, "Road guidance fee, 10 Hong Kong dollars per request." Our company or store employees are not responsible for giving directions. If the attitude isn't good, that's to be expected. No one owes anyone anything. And there's another store that says, "No free water available. You can buy a bottle of water for $6. Thank you for your cooperation." Anyone who's been to Hong Kong knows that this is not the Hong Kong we used to know. What exactly has happened in these years? What have Hong Kongers gone through?
好久没去香港了。
It's been a long time since I last visited Hong Kong. This time, I was truly shocked. Are there really so few people on the streets of Hong Kong now? I was in Wan Chai on a Saturday, near the Sun Hung Kai Center, and it was so empty. Many of the shops downstairs were closed. At first, I thought it was just a rare occurrence, but then I walked to Jim Sha Tsui and Carnarvon Street, which are tourist hotspots, places that used to be packed with people. But now it's the same, just cold and empty. A lot of stores have closed down. Physical stores in Hong Kong are in a really tough spot.
A local business owner said that the once bustling shopping street for purchases now has no visitors. She's been in business in Shengshui for 34 years and has never seen anything this desolate.
Hong Kong, once known for its glitz and glamour, was also considered one of the places with the most beautiful women. And Lan Kwai Fong, which was known as the Paradise of Beauties, was a hotspot for nightlife and is considered one of the pillars of Hong Kong's economy. But now, businesses at the bars in Lan Kwai Fong has dropped to about 30% of what it used to be. Many business owners lament. Most people just stop by to take pictures and leave. Lan Kwai Fong has become the favorite spot for budget tourists. Simply looking around and leaving really hurts the business owner's pride. One netizen wanted to experience Hong Kong's famous nightlife. He came to Lan Kwai Fong at what used to be the busiest time, only to find that what he saw and heard was nothing like the stories. He thought it wasn't fun at all and said he wouldn't come again.
10年前拼了命的想来香港。
10 years ago, I came to Hong Kong, working hard to make it here. Now 10 years later, I'm desperately trying to leave. Look at this. Once a world's financial center, now it's become a ghost town. In one night, 180,000 people left. I have no plans to stay here any longer. I've already sold all 3 of my stores.
The decline in Hong Kong is shocking. Many people are choosing to leave or are preparing to leave. But for those working in Hong Kong and still paying off mortgages, escaping Hong Kong has become an unattainable dream. Especially for those who bought property when prices were high in recent years, their situation is the most agonizing. Recently, some netizens have said that Hong Kong's property prices have completely spiraled out of control. Developers are rushing to sell, causing a market shock. Since February this year, a new round of price wars has erupted, and even the most resilient Hong Kong property market can no longer hold up. For example, a new property near Kowloon MTR station in a prime location dropped from 6 million Hong Kong dollars to just over 4 million. Right now, property prices in Hong Kong have plunged to the lowest point since 2008. Developers in the new territories are facing a life-and-death situation, and many are using all means to save themselves. Properties that used to require full payment can now be purchased with just a down payment. Homeowners in Tianmen, Yuanlong, and Shatin are so worried that their hair is turning gray. Properties that used to cost 15,000 Hong Kong dollars per square foot are now down to 8,000, with renovations included. Edison said that under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party, Hong Kong has gone from being an international financial center to an international financial ruin. He analyzed Hong Kong's actual situations using the 2024 fiscal revenue data. According to the latest figures, Hong Kong's actual fiscal revenue last year was 559.6 billion Hong Kong dollars. but the expenditure reached 754.7 billion Hong Kong dollars, resulting in a fiscal deficit of 195.1 billion Hong Kong dollars. Put in context, it's the second largest fiscal deficit in Hong Kong's history, after the 232.6 billion deficit during the peak of the COVID pandemic in 2020. The Hong Kong government played a number game by including 107.9 billion Hong Kong dollars from government bond issuance in the revenue. This was the largest bond issuance in history. With this, the deficit was miraculously reduced from 195.1 billion to 87.2 billion. The government proudly announced that the deficit has been controlled and called it a historic achievement. But honestly, the accounting method is laughable. Even the Ministry of Finance in China, which has long been criticized for data manipulation, hasn't been so creative as to treat bond issuance as direct income. Of course, China probably doesn't bother with such complicated methods and just makes up numbers. What's even more embarrassing is that Hong Kong's fiscal reserves, the savings accumulated over many years of frugality, are almost gone. In 2018, the reserves peaked at 1.17 trillion Hong Kong dollars, but by 2024, it had dropped to just 647.3 billion. At this rate of extravagant spending, this reserve won't last 4 more years. In the future, Hong Kong will likely become a city that relies purely on borrowing to get by. And at that point, what would support the credibility of the Hong Kong dollar? The root cause of the deficit is actually very clear. Hong Kong's land market has completely collapsed. Land sales revenue was the cash cow for the Hong Kong government, but by 2024, this revenue had dropped to a pitiful 3.7 billion Hong Kong dollars, almost negligible. Why did this happen? Because the property bubble in Hong Kong burst along with that in mainland China. Developers collectively faced huge losses, and no one dares to buy land anymore. Let's look at some data. Small residential units under 40 square meters in the Hong Kong Island area were once the most mainstream and resilient property type. In 2021, the average price of these properties reached a historic high of 182,000 Hong Kong dollars per square meter. But then, with the collapse of the mainland property market, Hong Kong couldn't escape either, and property prices plummeted. By January 2024, the price had dropped to only 135,000 Hong Kong dollars per square meter. In April, the Hong Kong government panicked and cancelled all real estate market controls, even encouraging mainland buyers to come to the rescue, causing a brief price rebound to 140,000. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long, and 2 months later, prices started to fall again. By January 2025, the price had dropped to 126,000, returning to the levels of 2013. Experts predict that, given Hong Kong's lack of core industries, property prices could continue to decline, possibly reaching the level of Beihai in Guangxi, one of China's poorest places. Considering the absurdly small sizes of Hong Kong's properties, it's truly frustrating. Now, let's look at the job market. Some say that Hong Kong no longer has much of a manufacturing industry and now relies on the 5 major service industries: foreign trade wholesale, retail, accommodation and catering, cleaning and maintenance, and warehousing logistics. These 5 industries support 57% of the employment population. As for the financial and real estate industries, there aren't many jobs. In 2024, the total number of people in these industries was only 378,000, accounting for just 13.1%. The problem is, these service industries have little room for growth, and wages aren't increasing, making this industrial structure similar to those of Beihai Guangxi. To support property prices of tens of thousands per square meter with such an industry structure is clearly unrealistic. What's even more troublesome is that these 5 pillars are also shaky. In 2024, Hong Kong's retail industry had a total sales value of 376.8 billion Hong Kong dollars, a 7.3% decrease from the 406.6 billion Hong Kong dollars in 2023. Why? Because it's become a trend for Hong Kongers to go to Shenzhen to shop, and the trend is unstoppable. Data shows that in 2024, the number of Hong Kongers leaving the city reached 104.7 million, a 45% increase from 72.2 million in 2023. As for mainland tourists, due to the economic downturn, fewer and fewer are visiting Hong Kong, and when they do, most are just window shoppers, leaving businesses struggling. The retail industry is shrinking, and there's no hope for recovery in the short term. The foreign trade industry isn't doing any better. Hong Kong used to be a major re-export trade hub in the Asia-Pacific region, but the US-China trade war changed everything. In 2022 and 23, China's re-export trade with mainland China declined continuously because the US strictly monitored goods passing through Hong Kong from China. However, in 2024, the Biden administration relaxed controls to ease inflation, causing a brief recovery in Hong Kong's foreign trade, with exports to mainland China increasing by 15.6% and imports rising by 6%. But this recovery didn't last long. On January 20th this year, after Trump took office, he raised tariffs twice in just 55 days, escalating the trade war. The cumulative export tariff on Chinese goods reached 40%. Worse still, the U.S. began cracking down on prohibited imports through Hong Kong, such as chips. Hong Kong's status as a re-export trade hub has been completely undermined, and the jobs of the 570,000 foreign trade workers are in jeopardy. Lastly, let's talk about Hong Kong stocks. At the beginning of 2024, the trading volume of Hong Kong stocks was sluggish, with daily transactions ranging from 90 billion to 110 billion Hong Kong dollars, which couldn't sustain an independent market. But starting in September, the southbound funds through the Hong Kong Stock Connect suddenly doubled, with daily transactions rising from 30 billion to 60 billion. And in February this year, it hit a historic high of 145.8 billion Hong Kong dollars. However, the operations of these funds were very strange, almost like an organized effort, focusing on hot stocks with a unified direction and no internal conflicts. This unusual behavior attracted foreign capital to follow, but by the beginning of this year, foreign capital withdrew and Hong Kong stocks dropped again. The truth finally came to light. On January 13th, the governor of the People's Bank of China said that they would use foreign exchange reserves to directly manipulate Hong Kong stocks. This meant foreign exchange reserves were being turned into stocks, and the Hong Kong dollar and the renminbi were acting as mutual reserves. It sounds like an extraordinary skill of stepping on the left foot with the right, and this kind of play is hard to comment on. Since the late Qing dynasty, Hong Kong has always been China's window for external communication and trade. The Qing government allowed this window to exist because they couldn't defeat the British gunboats, not willingly. For the first 60 years of communist China, they continued to tolerate this window's existence because it was necessary to retain an international financial and trade center to obtain valuable capital. Some netizens have argued that the ultimate goal of the Chinese Communist Party is to turn Hong Kong into an ordinary city of mainland China. Their conclusion is, if Hong Kong's financial position declines and it ceases to be an international city, the CCP will regret it, but not attempt to save it. Hong Kong financial expert Ling Yi-min stated, although many of the advantages Hong Kong once had have gradually disappeared, this does not mean that Hong Kong's future is hopeless. There are still industries that have not been affected by the degradation, and in the next 5 years, Hong Kong should still maintain some advantages in healthcare, education, and asset management. At the very least, it can remain on par with mainland cities and won't immediately fall behind. Some netizens believe that while the CCP has fully exploited Hong Kong, it has also always deeply resented it. The freedom and prosperity Hong Kong experienced under British rule were in stark contrast to the darkness, corruption, and brutal violence of the CCP society, which served as a huge insult and contrast. At the same time, Hong Kong's open society allowed the public to access real information that people in mainland China couldn't, including sensitive information from China. For those in mainland China, it's like being deaf and blind. When they went to Hong Kong, which is nominally part of China, they were shocked and awakened by the freedom and openness of Hong Kong. Therefore, once Hong Kong gradually loses its final value to the CCP, it will be the most urgent for the CCP to put an end to freedom of speech. The CCP will never allow a window facing the free world to remain on Chinese soil. Meanwhile, the CCP knows that Hong Kongers come from a society with a sound rule of law and have experienced real democracy and freedom. This means they will never truly trust the CCP. So, even if politicians or celebrities in Hong Kong who are either forced to willingly curry favor with the CCP show their patriotism and pro-CCP stance, the CCP will never trust these Hong Kongers. The most persuasive case recently occurred. Hong Kong's richest man, Li Ka-shing, was criticized by the CCP after selling off all his shares in the Panama port to the US. This move sparked a harsh backlash from the CCP, which accused him of being a traitor and a puppet. In fact, what Li Ka-shing did is just a businessman's instinct. He's well aware of what the CCP is like, and seeing the CCP situation getting worse, he won't hesitate to sever ties when the time comes. When faced with the CCP's insults and verbal attacks, he retaliated in his own way. He publicly stated,
"What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. You should know who the true culprit is. The central government gave us one person, one vote, but we, the Hong Kong people, destroyed that hope. But I see very few people pointing fingers at those responsible. I won't be confused about right and wrong."
This statement is quite telling. First, he emphasized right and wrong, signaling that he wanted to speak some truths. Then, he pointed out who the true culprit is, directly touching the CCP's nerve. After that, he said, "The central government gave us one person, one vote," which is a known lie. By exposing this flaw in public, he was poking fun at the CCP in a high-level, sarcastic way. Of course, he omitted the fact that being insulted by the CCP is the price he paid for helping them. This is his old, crafty nature. He knows that at his age, even though the CCP is angry, they won't do much to him. So, will Hong Kong really become just another ordinary city of mainland China, as some people claim? There's no need to be so pessimistic. Besides re-export trade, finance, and services like healthcare, Hong Kong still holds an unmatched advantage compared to mainland China: talent. Even those living at the lowest level in Hong Kong and in difficult circumstances still manage to show optimism and humor.
这里是香港的观塘区。
This is Kwun Tong in Hong Kong, often considered the poorest district. According to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government statistics, the average monthly income in Kwun Tong in 2023 was 24,000 Hong Kong dollars, the lowest in all of Hong Kong. A few days ago, my friends in Kwun Tong invited me to a barbecue, and they discussed two projects. One is a Bohai to Xinjiang project, which aims to divert water from the Bohai Sea to Xinjiang, creating 1.8 billion acres of fertile land and transforming Xinjiang into a fertile region like Jiangnan. The total investment is 300 billion Hong Kong dollars. The other project is to develop photovoltaic and charging piles in Xinjiang, with a total investment of 8 million Hong Kong dollars. They're short on funds right now. If I'm willing to contribute 6,000 Hong Kong dollars, I could buy a share. After a few drinks, my friend asked me if I wanted a few more bottles of Pearl River beer. I declined, worried that adding a few beers would cause their financial chain to collapse right then and there.
For over a century, the millions of Hong Kongers who have grown up in a mature society with a sound rule of law received high-quality educations and excelled in a highly competitive job market. They've become highly sought-after talent worldwide. Maybe Hong Kong will have some growing pains, but the cultural sophistication developed over a long history cannot be erased overnight. With the eventual downfall of the CCP, Hong Kong will certainly shine again.